So I'm Chandeep Khosa. I'm a freelance Drupal developer. I live in London and I've been doing Drupal for 10 years. What I'm about to share with you is a journey of some of my experiences and how hopefully some of those can give people ideas and some of those learnings from some of the things that I did wrong or could have done better, so you don't have to make the same mistakes. In case you're wondering why there's an astronaut on the screen, I don't know either. But at MoldCamp in Moldova in October, they created these cool images for us, and since then I've used it for all of my presentations. I think it's really cool. And if you ever get a chance to go to the Moldova camp, it's perhaps one of the best in Europe. So, who am I? So I'm a Drupal developer, consultant and trainer. A lot of my work is doing freelance work on smaller projects, or as a contractor in larger organizations for maybe 2-3 months. I'm a Drupal 8 core contributor, which has happened by magic, by the help of lots of awesome mentors in the community and sprint events. There's also something called Drupal West London. Nigel in the back knows a little bit about that. It's essentially, when you have a large city like London, a lot of the focus can be on the center of the city and it's really big, but sometimes when you go to like a village or a smaller city, you get that local feeling of like friends supporting each other. So Drupal West London is an attempt to kind of have that local community. But yeah, that's really, really cool. And it means not having to get on the tube and then swap another tube for like 2 hours, so it's super convenient. Also, recently we've restarted the community in London by having a user group. So now we have like planned lots of events in advance and things work really well. I enjoy speaking, as some of you may already know, and as a result, explaining Drupal, combining both those skills together. So training Drupal developers, apprentices is something I really enjoy. And also, I'm a Drupal meetup and camp addict. Some of the places I've worked for include Toyota, the UK website, Oxford University, Christian Aid, and the Tate Art Gallery. Really cool places to work. So, DrupalCamp Poland rocks, right? I can't hear you. Alright. Is it dobrze? So, I thought it'd be good to get to know each of you yesterday. So these are some of the coolest Polish people I met last night, during the day. Yeah. It's actually taken at night, but there's a really cool filter effect that makes it look like daylight. Yeah. Raise your hand if you're in this photograph. Sorry, I didn't make the cut. I think you were just standing just on the left there. Cool. So, before there was Drupal, there was this thing called Dreamweaver, right? Yeah. So actually, I didn't think anyone was still using it until Frontend United last week, where there was a lady talking about Dreamweaver and how she uses it. And I was like, it is 2018, right? There's not like a magical time warp. But essentially, around 2006, I was doing some freelance work with Dreamweaver. Some of you might be too young to remember it. Some of you may be lucky to have avoided it. But pretty much it's a WYSIWYG editor. You can make websites without needing to code. And if you want to, you can just click the code split view, and the markup's a bit terrible and stuff. But hey, you can make a website. In 2007, I decided it would be better to perhaps have something that clients can update themselves. So I made the mistake of having a charity client who, it was a good client, but I didn't think about charging them for updates. So there was a case of like, at the beginning, there's one event every 3 months and it has one image. This then became a few events a month. One image became an image gallery, and then I was spending all my time resizing images, uploading stuff, and thought, there must be a better way. So there's a product called, what's it called? I was going to say Captivate, but it's a Macromedia product, and it allows people to edit your Dreamweaver websites, but you have to pay for a license, and it was tricky. So, you know, I thought CMS maybe is a better idea. So I went about saying, hey, you guys need a CMS, and said, yeah, we do need a CMS. So I did some research on WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and then the client got a CMS from somebody else. So all of that hard work of doing free updates didn't necessarily pay off. It teaches you a bit better to be a business owner or think strategically. So as you'll see here, at university I was messing around with Drupal 5. Procrastination has followed me throughout my career. So when you're supposed to be doing your thesis or your final year presentation, maybe discovering Drupal at the same time might not be so productive for that, but it's a really good way of using procrastination to learn something really well. And, you know, nobody was there to teach me how to do local development or use Drush or any kind of Git stuff. So, shared hosting, and you do the one-click installs. I thought that was great. Until your website dies and you have the white screen of death and you don't know what to do, and maybe you've got no backups. Then you just start the website again, right? And so this is the beauty of that twilight zone between midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. You can build a fresh website from scratch until you delete it again or something goes wrong. Yeah. So FTP is also a key word here. Some clients still use it. Not even secure FTP. But I don't discriminate. By the way, if you would like to take photographs and tweet them along, at Chandeep Khosa and the hashtag DC18 Poland, there'll be a winner chosen for the PHP Storm licenses and also the Chandeep Mystery Prize. You'll find out later. So it was 2008. Drupal 6 was released. So this is about a year after the initial Drupal 5 release. And I wasn't following traditional advice of you finish university, then you get a graduate job, then you do another job, then maybe one day you become a freelancer. I was already enjoying doing this crazy Dreamweaver freelance stuff. And Drupal, I was quite sure it's what I wanted to do. So year one, I made £6,000. Luckily I was living at home, otherwise I would have been homeless. But yeah, so, you know, it was quite fun. And sometimes it's better to kind of be outside of your comfort zone. Like, so there's an expression, the magic happens outside of your... So always strive to push yourself into uncomfortable situations and you will be surprised with what you can manage to do. Some of the lessons I learned during this process include graduate job is maybe better than self-employment, right? But it doesn't matter. It's not the same path for everyone. Also, I probably should have attended more Drupal events. So at this point, I'd only been attending the Drupal London pub meetup, maybe once every 6 months. And there are many things in your learner journey and being a beginner that you can learn from other people, like a camp like this. So attending Drupal events is key. Even getting outside of your local area, maybe neighboring countries, maybe organizing your own Drupal meetup in your local area, if there doesn't already exist one, right? I probably should have also not been afraid to ask for help. I think many of us are guilty of this. We have a problem, we don't want to seem stupid. Is this still working? Okay, it went off for a sec. And also, don't be afraid to ask for help. 2009, I built my first e-commerce website with Drupal. A cot to rule them all. Ubercot. Really cool. It's what led to the creation of Drupal Commerce. So Ryan Zalma was working on that and continues to work on Drupal Commerce all these years and now is the CEO of Commerce Guide. But during that first e-commerce project, it was a case of a very small client with a low budget and then trying to build a Drupal site. It might have not been the best use case. And also adding all the complexity of Drupal Commerce. Probably took me a few months, but at the time it wasn't so urgent. And I think that's when I attended the first meetup. But I would find it difficult to be there, and I think, you know, being a fresh graduate, and there's all these professionals, especially like wearing suits and like being 30, 40 years old, I felt like some kind of kid as a bedroom hobbyist. So some of the lessons I learned there were maybe Drupal e-commerce isn't for small websites. In the modern day, maybe it would be better to use a SaaS product like Shopify or dreaded WordPress potentially even. It could be right for your use case. Being more confident back then would have probably helped with asking the questions and also engaging with the community more. Attending more meetups would probably help as well, but I think I would get disassociated and then just not go for ages. Here's a crazy photo from last night to keep everyone engaged in case everyone's falling asleep at the sound of my melodic voice. So these are some of the coolest people in Poland. Maybe. Maybe not. Who thinks yes? Okay. So yeah, over there you have Mathieu, Thomas, Christian Fritz, who is a German, but you know, we don't discriminate, right? Yeah. So 2011, Drupal 7 was released in January. I remember working my first Drupal 7 site and trying to use some of the same modules I use in Drupal 6, but never quite checked that they were ready, and they had to rebuild the whole thing in Drupal 6 afterwards. It's crazy. I also started my first full-time contract job, working for a London university. That was really good, because I don't think prior to that I'd worked in a professional dev environment with other devs, and you know, you start quickly using features and Git and things like that. I also met Dries at a meetup in London. It was really surreal at that time. And there was DrupalCon London. I didn't go because I'd just come back from 6 months in Brazil, and I had no money left. But I had lots of fun experiences, and I had the ability to speak Portuguese, which will come in handy at Dev Days Lisbon in 3 weeks' time. Hopefully you can attend. It's going to be amazing. But yeah, in hindsight, not having money to attend an event isn't always a barrier. So scholarships, programs, and grants exist. I didn't really think of even doing it. So perhaps it could be something worth applying or investigating. Maybe ask other people that were successful. Don't let it stop you. You'll notice there's a year missing. So 2012, I don't remember what I did. So I must have been doing lots of Drupal. So 2013, I decided to put a bit more focus into my personal brand and marketing and blogging and all of this stuff. But also, perhaps as a consequence of all of that hard work, I managed to work for Toyota.co.uk's Drupal migration, the University of Oxford, working with Drupal agencies, working client side, and actually that is invaluable. When you go from working on a dev team of 3 to like 15 Drupal devs on Toyota project, like you really learn really fast. In 2014, I attended my first DrupalCamp London. The year before, I'd planned to go. And I also, having been the first camp after 7 years of Drupaling, to attend your first DrupalCamp is a bit crazy, right? But at this point, I thought, this is really exciting. DrupalCamp London is great, and I'm meeting all these cool people, and like people actually like my jokes. This is cool. And then I was invited to Drupal Dev Days in Szeged in Hungary. Attending that was really awesome, and that's where I managed to get my first Drupal 8 core contribution. And also learned lots of Hungarian, which came in handy because a week later my girlfriend became my fiancée at Balaton Lake when we proposed. I also gave my first talk at a Drupal camp. So the step between Drupal Camp 1 and number 2 and speaking at 1 was probably like 3 months. But it's quite addictive, that energy. And riding when your energy is high, it helps you to keep motivated. Also, everyone kept talking about DrupalCon and how amazing it was, so I thought, let's go DrupalCon. I decided to go all in for the 9 days of sprints. It was a special one because Drupal 8 was very close to being released, which they were saying for the last few years, but hey, I believed in this time. And then that's where I also, by attending all these other events that were smaller and different to the London community, I thought by creating something that was different and unique, it should be better for newbies and a more intimate vibe. And that's where the crazy live tweeting Drupal camps started and writing blog posts. And I currently only don't live tweet an event when my battery is dead. This is Jam on stage. So of all the photos of DrupalCamp London, I couldn't quite find one that had that spirit and energy. There's lots of photos where you have a group photo of lots of people, But if you look really closely, you can see the word London over there. That's not me, in case you're wondering. Yeah. I believe this might have been after DrupalCon Asia. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So this is where Jam started having his Indian phase and dressing in Indian outfits. It was really cool. The Drupal Apprenticeship scheme was also happening that year for the first time. So essentially we were getting 16 to 18-year-old individuals that didn't have a background in web development, and then we ran a 2-week pre-apprenticeship course, and then intensely were helping them to learn Drupal. And then they ended up being employed, continuing their 1-year apprenticeship. This was really, really fun, because I really got to use all those training skills, and it was really exciting. And actually I met Zach at the Front-End United last week, and it's really cool, 4 years later, to see, someone's actively involved in the community. Does anyone remember this? So Drupalgeddon was this big bomb. I was trying my best not to say that on the aeroplanes on the way here. So essentially, it reminded me that I wasn't necessarily keeping all my websites up to date. So ChandeepKhosa.com got hacked, and my blog went offline for a while. And it teaches you an important lesson by, perhaps using cloud hosting providers and Git and backups and taking care of that whole process. So it's probably a good thing, because if that was to happen now, that would be a huge problem. Obviously, the bomb was so powerful, it's had some kind of effect. Oh. Well, actually, I thought of the animation and the plan. So Tinkerbell is sprinkling her fairy dust to make the Drupalgeddon go away. Really? Who knows any Polish jokes? Feel free to take the mic and tell a joke. Does anyone know about technology here? I've heard Polish developers are the best, but alright, just bear with me. Okay, so 2015, I went a bit crazy that year. 5 UK Drupal camps and more tweets and blog posts, and I also get married. This originally was a mistake at the Drupal camp in Moldova, and it stuck when I tried correcting it. And then 2016 was a bit mad. These are all the Drupal talks I gave. There's a lot. But yeah, this was the first time I think I did a talk outside of the UK. So I managed to do Drupal Dev Days in Milan. I gave talks in Budapest for the user group. And I also gave a talk about Drupal 8 learnings at Camp in Prague. Here's me at Dev Days Milan, in which I think is a terrible photo. But hey, it's celebrating our failures, right? This is me trying my first ever audience selfie. Yeah. 2017, Drupal Business Days in Frankfurt. Super cool event. I think I've always been more interested in the business side as well than your average developer. Also, DrupalCamp Belgium, I gave a talk, and it was crazy. They had huge screens and a really big audience, and I really recommend that camp. The quality is super high. It's almost like a very small DrupalCon. And then DrupalCamp Dublin was happening, and they didn't have a committee member. I was then helping out with the website and some digital marketing stuff, and they invited me in. I thought that was really cool, because for the first time, I was part of like a local Drupal association for a little while. But really, really great group of people, and it enabled me to go to Ireland for the first time. Also, DrupalCon Vienna happened, and the business summit, and the marketing sprint were some of the highlights there. I also did a few video interviews. Here's a photograph of me doing my first ever Drupal training session for beginners. Hopefully there'll be a bigger crowd next time I choose to do it. And this is at DrupalCon Vienna, a photograph with the local Portuguese community. At that time we were looking forward to hopefully them winning Dev Days bid. You may recognize João at the top in yellow from yesterday. And then 2018, obviously the highlight of the year must be DrupalCamp Poland, right? Yeah. And also helping out co-organizing Dev Days and Drupal Europe is super exciting. It's actually quite a challenge, doing quite a few things. And then this week, on Tuesday, I was at Acqui Engage, and I finally got a photograph with Dries. I could have done it in 2011 when we were at that pub in London, but you know. And blogging and social media, I think it's a really good way of helping yourself to track your progress. So you can talk to the future version of yourself and explain how you fixed something, but it's also a good community contribution. You get to share with other people how you solved a problem. Equally though, sometimes we believe we have a good solution, and then it allows other people to give us feedback, which allows us to get better. So blogging is really good for this. It can also help with your personal branding or the company you work for, so it can be really interesting. And it markets you while you're sleeping. Who doesn't love that, right? Here's the photo with Dries. Yeah, I think it's great. And I'd like to say thank you to the mentors on the journey. So some of these involve those sprint mentors, so Emma Maria, Ruben Tejero, Flourish Van Hale, Jeffrey Jan Maguire, Paul Johnson, Campbell Vitesi, Adam Joanne, Josef Domernik, Mikhail Schmidt, Gabor Hoichi, and many more. So in summary, don't be shy, just jump in, push yourself, and don't be afraid to ask for help. While there are camps happening, submit as many sessions as you can. And also, like Drupal being a global network, like use Drupal as an advantage to help you travel the world and have local people show you those cool places. And also contribute to the community however you can. There's not, you know, one way of doing things, and it's not always about code. Organizing events is a great contribution. So yeah, do whatever's feeling right for you. And any questions? Is there a microphone for the audience? Cool.
I wonder about this apprenticeship program you mentioned in London. Do you still continue it, and if you can evaluate how successful it was, and if there is something like that happening in other countries yet? If you know.
Sure. So the first question, yes, it is still continuing. It used to be once every year, and then it started being 2 every year, and it's expanded outside of London. So it's run by an organisation called Happy Computers, and their apprenticeship training program. I'm no longer involved as much as I was, but they did another cohort in Manchester, and now they're trying to find a way of doing 2 a year in 2 different locations. So that's working. It's getting traction. There's other apprenticeship programs as well. So one of those is the Drupal Easy apprenticeship program, which is in the States, run by Mike Anello. And they've managed to get a Drupal apprentice who now works for Commerce Guys, Lisa Streetfield, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so it's happening around the world in other places too. Those are the ones sticking in my mind at the moment. But I think it's a really good way of addressing the talent problem that we have. And there's also cases of Drupal agencies or even internal clients like Capgemini. They have their own training program that they have in-house, but there could be an opportunity for everyone to share their curriculums and use those together. So what we have is something called Open Drupal, which was an attempt at that. I think some of the focus has gone off it as much, but you see there it says Open Drupal. So this was the curriculum, we had it on GitHub, and it was providing a lot of the resources for the apprenticeship scheme. I'm sure it's probably being used by other people, but there's that opportunity to have something that links back together and then perhaps a global resource by all companies. But yeah, if other people are interested, I can find out and give you the info.
Okay, thank you.
Thomas, do you have a question? I can see your hand. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping you can all help me learn a little bit more Polish so I can one day get to 10 words instead of 7. That'd be good. And is there anyone here who's never given a talk before but would like to? No? Well, I think Mike at the back over there, you gave a really good talk yesterday. I know it's your first one, and it would be good for you to do, I think it'd be great to see you do other talks as well. And as you get more confident, maybe you could do one in English. I think that'd be great. Yeah, sure. Yeah. And actually, there's also a way of doing remote talks in some meetups. So, Drupal meetup in Dublin, they're looking for speakers. So if anyone here would like to give a talk, get in contact with them or ask me, I'll give you the contact details. But yeah, don't let it stop you that there's no other camps or meetups. The global thing's really cool.
I already sent you an invite on LinkedIn.
Yeah, sure.
Catch you on the web and can move forward.
And also anyone who's given a talk yesterday or going to give one today, remember, writing a blog about it is good, right? It can help your company, it can get help with marketing, also it can help yourself. So capture that, get the slides, embed them in put them on SlideShare because that helps discoverability as well, since SlideShare got acquired by LinkedIn. So yeah, lots of little tricks. Any other questions? Okay, dziękuję. Cześć.